what I'm going to do is I'm going to start clap. I'm going to start recording
Powered
this,
by
and then I'm going to have you do the
Riverside
clap
FM.
and action. Hey, and we're coming to you live from the Sunny Studios at Premier Reputation Title in Estero, Florida. Title Adam in the house, baby. We're just getting started with this podcast, and I'm joined by the lovely Jade Varela. She's a real estate agent herself, but she's also someone who is helping document the journey. And so here we are. Thanks for joining us. And I'm sorry I'm not able to use the bold glamour filter while I'm recording this video, but I did have a couple of friends and family that listened to the podcast, and they said, hey, it sounds great. It's tough for us to just stare at a picture of your logo for 12 minutes. So we're going to put some video into it, and we're going to see how that works. But really, more than anything, Jade and I talked about this, and we said, hey, let's not gatekeep the fun. Let's not gatekeep the process. There's a lot of people out there that have reached out to me that said, Adam, I was going to do a podcast. I was going to do that, and I'm actually in the middle of doing that. I can't believe that you actually did it. And what I would say to that is don't play, congratulate, but also come in and use the equipment with me. Let's learn it together. And if you decide that you want to make that investment yourself into the thousands of dollars of equipment, then I would certainly help you do that. But if you want to jump on with me, go to guest.titleadam.com and you can fill out a short form there, and you're coming in the house. So, hey, we are broadcasting from Premier Reputation Title in Estero. We've also got an office in Bonita Springs. I can't say enough great things about Premier Reputation. You'll hear me talking about Title Adam because my name is Adam. I do title. They call me Title Adam. If you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, reach out and let me help because I'm local, I'm licensed, and I'm on the air. So we can talk about all the great work that we do together in Southwest Florida. But in Florida as a whole, in the state, I'm here to serve. I live in Lehigh Acres. I work in Estero, and I'm somewhere in between a lot of the days of the week. But I was out in Hendry County and Clewiston last week, and I have other closings around the state in the coming week. So certainly feel free to leverage. Jade, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm kind of the guinea pig today because, we are trying out the new equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, a lot of people have been like, wait a second, what do you mean a podcast? And I'm not going to say I was one of those people, but on one hand, I am kind of like, ooh, are you ready? Are we ready to do that? Don't we need like an outline or some research? And you've been researching how to go about putting it together, but a lot of people might feel self-conscious about coming on the waves, because it's the sound waves or being on camera. But I like vlogs, and I can get into the long format ones that might be like 45 minutes just because I might find the person's voice to be soothing, or I like what they're talking about, so I could get behind a conversation. And then I think the concept on a whole is neat. Like you could record for a long time and just have a chat with someone and then really edit it down until you've just got some sound bites and something that people want to hear and something that you want to talk about. So that's really cool that you invited anybody who might catch wind of the Title Adam in the house and invite them to be a part of it, because I know that I wouldn't probably go out and start buying equipment to do a podcast, but even something like the simple mic that we were trying on, the lapel mic, it's neat because in like the digital world, it's a cool technology. Even if you don't feel that comfortable behind the camera, it's cool to experiment with the technology and see what you can make out of it.
I think having you on, though, was testament to that, because as someone who's not seeking the limelight, someone who's not constantly putting themselves out there on social media, someone who is actually the yin to my yang, if you will, you showed, though, by coming on yesterday that it's not impossible to do. It's not hard. It doesn't hurt. And really, it's fun. And so I appreciate you being here with me. And like I said, I hope to have a lot of conversations about real estate in Florida, about title. And the reality, everyone knows title work itself is not really that exciting. And it's not that sexy, but we can tell the stories that we see in the house. And that's why we're here. It can be very exciting.
Yeah. Or like some of them that you could get into where there could just be contentions about the sale, or like, why is there a cloud? Why can't we get this person to sign off? What do you mean everybody has to sign? I haven't seen that person in, 5 years when this thing happened. So it is kind of dry a lot of the time. And then even just learning the laws and rules and statutes, that's the boring part. I think the fun of it is the interaction with the different people, like the different agents you might come across, or the different lenders you might meet, or just the buyers and sellers that you happen upon, or the different type of, for me, it's like to the different type of location that you might find yourself if you're showing 100-year-old home, off of McGregor, or if you're like out in Wildcat Farms on a dirt road, showing a manufactured home, or if you're out at Fort Myers Beach, or you're in Inglewood, or like you could just, Florida is such a cool place. And I like being able to just appreciate each of the little pockets of town. And I think it's a fun opportunity to get to talk about that. Like if I have a listing that's somewhere out in like off of Bell Boulevard, I think that people listening who are out that way would like to know about what's going on in that region of town, or, and title Adam is always somewhere.
If you're down on Bell Boulevard, you're going to want to talk about the new Aldi. That's the big deal out there, right?
Oh,
And so,
yeah.
but if you're in Estero, you might say, I don't really care what's going on out there. So you can get really, really hyper local and
Mhm.
yet broadcast the message out to the masses. You said the term earlier, on the airwaves. That's really what it is.
Yeah, and it is a frequency thing. You tune in to the area that you are working in and working out of. And I like the opportunity to come to Estero because it's different part of the county. Like Fort Myers kind of has like the bigger point on the map. And then you hear about Cape Coral all the time. And then sometimes it was funny because when Juliet was over here at Gulf Coast Target, people would say, "Now, where is Lehigh Acres? I don't know if I've heard of
Yeah,
that."
come
And she's like, "Oh, I'm so like, I can't believe people are telling me they don't know where it is." And Estero is on the map because you've got the airport here, and the college, and the interstate. 41 is by everything, close to the beaches. So I like leaning into this part of town because it's neat. Like when we were at the golf event, I helped set
it
up
was at
for the spring run.
Spring Run.
That was gorgeous. And so any opportunity to kind of get into a community and see what it has to offer, that's nice. And it's also a benefit to the community too, because there's a lot of competition around here. When you even drive down Ben Hill Griffin and you see at Miramar Lakes, and, I mean, you could name them off better than I, but
A couple of communities here in Estero. And I can say, as someone who grew up here in Southwest Florida, I'm glad to see my friends in Estero and Bonita get a little bit of their comeuppance, because when I was growing up, I grew up in Bonita Springs, right on the Imperial River. Everybody knows Bonita Elementary, Bonita Springs Middle School, Estero High School. Let's go Wildcats. Anyways, when I was growing up, it was always people talking about Naples. It was always people talking about Fort Myers and Tampa. Not so much Cape Coral, really, as a kid. There wasn't a lot doing out there, but nobody really talked about Bonita Springs and Estero. Bonita Springs was a sleepy fishing village, and Estero was really cow pastures. And so this would be, I moved to Bonita Springs in 1985. I believe, 86 possibly. I spent a lot of time there with it being a sleepy fishing town, a lot of fishing trade, a lot of people were, making a great living off of the fishing boats there in Bonita Springs. And so we've seen it change quite a bit, but now people are saying, well, Fort Myers, that's where RSW, that's where Southwest Florida International Airport is bringing in people by the plane load over and over and over. And even though this year they said that number's down a little bit, still a huge driver of traffic coming in here to the area. Well, I'd like to spend a couple of minutes and actually talk about how Title Adam got to where he's at. So a snapshot of where I'm at today. I'm 45 in less than a month. I'll be halfway through my 40s at that point, guys, and I am doing really great. I'm in the title insurance business now for 3 years, and actually just coming up on my third year licensed. Before that, I sold real estate at a high level, and before that, I originated mortgages at a high level. And so there's a running theme there that you'll see. If I go back over my professional career, it really started in banking and mortgage, and I, kind of cut my teeth with some of the titans in the industry. JP Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo Home Mortgage I worked for many years in many states. I shouldn't say in many
yeah.
states, but in 2 states anyhow. and originated loans in many states for both of those companies. I really enjoy helping people in the state of Florida too. If they're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing any kind of a deal, I like to step in there and make sure that everything is done right the first time, that it's done with excellent customer service, and that it's done at a fair price. And I think if you will embrace those three things alone, you have a really, really successful business, especially here in Southwest Florida. I started my title insurance career with another company, and I worked for them for 2.5 years. And I made a move from there over to Premier Reputation Title in January of 2025. So I've been here just about 6 months. And I would say that I wish I would have started my career with Premier Reputation Title, but I have brought all of the lessons that I've learned and the stripes that I've earned to Premier Reputation. Premier Reputation Title is actually owned by Kim Tortora, a wonderful woman. She's a titan in the title industry up in Michigan. And she also owns a company called Reputation First Title, and that's up in Michigan. And if you know, you know, Kim is a rock star. She took a McDonald's and converted it into a drive-through
I love
closing
that.
location. Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. It was featured in articles around the globe. And it's just a sign of someone who wants to do things a little bit different, who's willing to take a little bit of a chance, and who understands that sometimes you got to do that in order to, you got to change to make it. Yeah, she's so dynamic.
Yeah.
We really love working with her. We love working for her.
I'd love to get her on the podcast. That could be a cool little chat.
Yeah. Kim's got to come on. But here's the thing that I wanted to say about that, because, you know, I know people that own title companies and they're not title people. I mean, I know people that are CPAs or that are attorneys, and they look at it simply as a means to an end, a cash cow. And what I like about working for someone who understands the business so intimately is that there's a belief in the business. There's a belief in the value of a licensed title insurance agent. And Kim knows that. So again, you'll hear me talking about Reputation First and Premier Reputation Title. Title Adam, he runs everything through Premier Reputation Title. That's how Title Adam is powered by Premier Reputation Title. That said, Premier Reputation Title is then powered by two other underwriters, actually three other underwriters rather. Premier Reputation Title is then powered by Westcor and by First American. Title Adam writes everything through Westcor. My personal friend Mario is my rep there with Westcor. I've been working with him since I got my license, and he's a phenomenal stand-up guy. I will be bringing him on to Title Adam in the house. I've already gotten a commitment from him that he'll join us, and so I'll look very much forward to that. A great guy, understands the business as well, but more than anything, he's a good friend and someone that I trust. And when you're working in the business, trust is key. We're talking about one of the largest financial transactions that most of the people we work with will ever do, and that's in the purchase or sale of residential real estate. You've got to be able to trust the people that you're working with. So hats off to Westcor, hats off to First American, which is another fantastic underwriter, and I'm appointed through them as well. Bobby Joe does great work, and we appreciate her as well. I am coming to you from the sunny studios at Premier Reputation Title here in Estero, Florida. I'd invite you to join me on my office here on Corkscrew Road. Go to guest.titleadam.com, fill out a short form, and we'll be in touch. So we took a look at the information on the multiple listing service this morning, 147 open houses today. And of that, there was a lot of them in Lehigh Acres. I mean, a lot. There's a lot of property for sale. I wanted to switch gears. I wanted to ask you, Jade, have you heard anything about, this is from AP News, Florida condo relief law effective July 1st. Have you heard about this?
I did hear about it, but just a flash of the headline.
Here we
What
go.
are the details on that?
A new bill signed by Governor DeSantis will ease the burden on condo owners hit hard by the 2022 Surfside Safety Law. Starting July 1st, associations can use loans or lines of credit for their reserves. They can pause reserve funding to prioritize. They can reserve funding to prioritize urgent structural repairs. They can extend deadlines for costly structural integrity studies, and they can exempt smaller buildings from some requirements. Now, this is huge for Southwest Florida. It covers elderly retirees and long-term homeowners in the Fort Myers Cape Coral corridor. But I have to ask, do we need to kick the can, and do we need to see another building fall before we get really, really serious about these inspections? Because what I'm seeing here is it's a win for everyone because we're not going to do the work.
Well, what I like about it is that it offers some relief to victims of natural disasters while still not ignoring the fact that there is a big problem with it. And I think that the governor really holds a lot of weight in that, because you have to decide where can you give those homeowners relief, even though we've really got to make sure that the structures are safe going in and out of them along a coast that is constantly shifting. And with the changes of climate and the different high category hurricanes that we've been having, the beach is not what it was even 5 years ago. The whole beach line has changed over here. I do think it's a good thing overall that we're taking a look at providing relief to people who happen to own those condos, because what are they supposed to do otherwise? You know, it's like, who do they turn to? You've already had all of your belongings ripped out of there, and now you're trying to decide whether or not your structure's safe. I think at that point, the government does have to step in and help people out of that some way or another, because it's a tough situation to be in.
Well, I'm sure it's easier to say that is a good idea if you're impacted by it, or if your family or friend was impacted by it. But let's look through those 4 bullet points and let's just go a little bit deeper, because starting on July 1, which is next week, now associations are able to use loans or lines of credit for reserves. So that tells me that they're not going to be required to hold the cash that they maybe have in the past, as long as they have a credit line. And that sounds great. That actually sounds like smart business. What happens when we get into any kind of a credit crunch and a bank says, we're canceling that $5 million line of credit that you're using for reserves for your condominium repairs?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of what we were chatting about yesterday with the assessments in the Cape, because like at one point or another, you're going to pay for those. And so if you're able to use like a line of credit to make sure everything is good, potentially, that's great. But it's like you're privatizing the insurance of it, or you are kind of providing a way to like a safety net. But that's what the whole thing is, isn't it? Is a risk.
Well, I just see it as something setting up a perfect storm to where now the state of Florida, which has done very well financially and operates in a surplus, where the state of Florida now is going to come back and say, well, we're going to now guarantee those lines of credit, and we'll make sure that you have the liquidity when you need it. And that, again, you could be on either side of that. I'm almost always going to be on the side of less government intervention. But like I said, this is a life and death thing here.
Yeah.
Let's go a little bit further. The next point then is that they'll be able to pause reserve funding to prioritize urgent structural repairs. I agree with that. I think that they should be able to do that. They should be able to say, we're not going to put, we're not going to put the money into the reserves for the swimming pool and for the new cabana refurbishment project next spring, but we are going to take that money instead, and we're going to work on structural issues that now have shown cracks or that have shown signs of concern. I'm okay with that. I think that's great.
I recently experienced quite a bit of just seeing that, because we'll drive down to the beach and you can see any of those condominiums along the beach. And there's so many of them with the walls ripped out, and you can see the stove half hanging from, like, it looks like a dollhouse almost, where like one side is ripped open and you can see in through all the dividing of the rooms.
And that's almost 3 years from Ian's Roth.
Yeah,
Roth.
it's really sad to see that. It really is.
And so the third point is, starting on July 1, associations can now extend deadlines for costly structural integrity studies. That one bothers me, because what happens then is that you've got the HOA board that says, we don't want our fees to go up. We don't want to peel the Band-Aid back. We don't want to see how bad it is. We want to leave it for future generations of homeowners and of HOA members to deal with the fallout down the road. I would like to know a little bit more about what that looks like. How long can you extend it? Is this just an open-ended, as long as you see fit and the economy makes, that it makes sense? I think we're creating this potential for a bigger problem down the road, when a lot of these people, to be honest, won't even be living with us on this great earth.
Like Barbara Cleaver used to say, Florida is God's waiting room.
And then the final item was that it would exempt smaller buildings from some requirements. And that's kind of vague, but the ongoing investigation into the Surfside collapse continues. The NIST continues this multi-year probe in the Surfside's 2021 collapse. Gosh, it's been 4 years, with findings expected in 2026. So next year, the investigation highlights construction flaws and notes how legislative updates are already evolving. I think that we need to act before we get too far from the tragedy that's happened now almost 4 years ago. The further we get from that, the more that we start forgetting how bad that was.
You've got single family, then you've got villa, Then you've got low rise, mid rise, high rise. So in all of those, you've got different codes. And if it's smaller and lower to the ground,
Low rise 1 to 3, mid rise 4 to 7, high rise 8 and up.
yeah, sounds right. I think a lot of reform is going to come out of it too, though, because it does get scary. And like you said, it's the biggest financial purchase that people make in their lifetimes. And so if you've got your whole home like in an area on the beach, it could be kind of dangerous to, it's a lot of risk.
Market statistics, Cape Coral and Fort Myers. Cape Coral listings reached 14,580 in 2025, doubling from 2023 and hitting a 10-year high. In home sale price in May of 2025 was 362 and a half, down 7.3% year over year, with days on the market up from 59 to 76 days. So I've seen cherry listings that are taking longer to sell. I'm talking with agents across the state that are saying it's harder to get people in for a showing. It's harder to get them back in for a second showing. And then once we get into contract, it's a little slippery right now, keeping them there and keeping them in love because the opportunity to buy other properties is constantly in front of that buyer right now. And they're being told this is a buyer's market. It's a buyer's market. I don't disagree with them.
It is and it isn't. And you still have to be able to afford the loan. And with the interest rates still being kind of high, like even if you find the house, you've got to be able to afford that.
Yeah, great news. I'm able to get it for $50,000 under the asking price. Bad news, you don't qualify for that, dude. You're not getting the home. And the seller's not going to sell. They're not going to move then. It's the gum up of the gears of the local real estate market here, where we have a lot of cash to grease those gears and to keep the market moving forward. And that's why we're seeing that business is still up. I'm a title insurance agent here in the state of Florida, and I can tell you my business is down year over year in tandem with what you're hearing in the real estate market. So it's there. It's not just one person or many people. It's everybody right now is down. You know, the market is down.
I'd like you to maybe get a lender in here because there are some good programs like with the Florida Bond program or the Homes for Heroes program. Is it a good time to buy or sell? Well, it depends on your individual situation. Do you need a home? Because if you do, there are a lot of good programs out there and you do the best you can with what you've got. If you've got a good lender, a good loan program, good agent, a good title agent, you feel confident about the team that you've surrounded yourself with for your closing, then go for it. You know, and some people might be through a stage where it makes more sense to rent than buy, but other people are realizing that they're spending the same money on a rental that they could get into comfortable, affordable housing, like the 55 plus option that's available at just $139.9.
Southwest Florida quarterly trends in quarter one 2025. Single family prices dropped 11%, condo prices down 10%, and overall residential sales declined, single family by 11%, condos by 39%. That's from fgcu.edu. Quoting the reference there, May 2025 sales performance data from johnrwood.com. Southwest Florida closed 151 properties over the prior year, declining about 11% compared to May of 2024. That's great. Great local information there from johnrwood.com. Climate-driven insurance costs are squeezing affordability, exacerbating market pressure in Southwest Florida. This isn't a local anomaly. It's part of a national cautionary trend, and this is per Big Short's David Burt and relocators observing major price risks, the Times.co in the UK. Jay, that is David Burt from the movie The Big Short. I know you really like to see Christian Bale in that role. That's who's saying right now that we're having some issues with climate-driven insurance costs. Florida's market, once on fire, is cooling. The inventory's up, migration is softening, and buyers are backing away. It's a reality, and we're working through that. If you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, tag in Title Adam. I'm here to help. And as always, you can call or text me, 239-757. If you'd like to join me here on Title Adam in the House, visit guest.titleadam.com. Enter a couple of short items for me, and I'll be in touch. Home market stats for Cape Coral and Fort Myers for June of 2025. Cape Coral saw listings rocket to 14,580 homes in 2025. That's up from 10,314 in 2024 and just 5,586 in 2023. It's marking the highest inventory in over a decade. Wow. In 2023, listings were 5,000, and today there's 14,000. So we've tripled the inventory from just 2023. That in itself tells us a little bit about the market where it stands today, because in 2023 you could not, they were fighting over properties. They were, inside unseen. May 2025 median Cape Coral sales price 362,500. That's down 7.3% year over year, with homes taking 76 days to sell compared to 59 days last year. That's redfin.com giving us that data, and we thank them for that. As far as the affordability index, Lee County's at 1.04, showing moderate buyer capacity compared to Collier County, which stands at 0.85. Now, nearly 45% of listings had price cuts in January of 2025, and homes took about 70 days to sell in February. Surging inventory of about a 12-month supply is signaling stabilization, with Realtor.com forecasting 22.8% combined growth. That's sales and prices for Cape Coral Fort Myers in 2025. That's actually really, really positive information. 22.8% combined. A 22.8% combined growth is it's a very sunny outlook anyhow for Southwest Florida. And I say that with us being currently down. Long-term outlook, I know I've had people ask this. Price growth expected to rebound mid to late 2025, supported by population growth, affordability versus Miami, Tampa, and recovery in rental investor demand. And that's what's going to happen, is that we're going to get those Miami and Tampa people that are going to come down and go, it is expensive. God, have you been over to the east coast of Florida? Going back, I want to just step back over to the condo law overhaul. This is HB 913 and HB 393. This is effective July 1st, 2025. And we go to some of the transparency and protection measures they were talking about. Inman.com said new mandates for posting board meetings, minutes, and financials online. Buyers now get a 7-day document review window. 93 renews the MySafe Florida condominium pilot, offering state-inspected safety grants and resilience funding. So older 3+ story condos burdened by steep HOA fees post-Surfside, values in places like Marco Island dropped below $10,000 from six-figure levels.
Wow, that's crushing. Imagine you own property.
And that law is widely perceived as corrective. He overreacted, aiming to balance safety with homeowner viability. Let's go back to that just for one moment, because what I just said was that the local impact, there were condominiums in Marco Island that had six-figure HOA fees that with this new HB 393 dropped below $10,000. So huge benefit, a big win for condo owners in that. And I'm going to ask, though, that you look at the flip side of the coin and say, what's happening when we're not putting that money into reserves? How are we actually fixing this problem long term? I always feel like just ignoring it is going to cause a bigger problem down the road. And that's that kick the can mentality that I just can't stand. But I do understand, if I owned a condo and it was $100,000 assessment on there and I was going to lose that condo over that, then I would probably be a cheerleader for it. And I would probably be very pleased that this was signed in. So congratulations to those people. I just hope that boards will somehow adopt a policy of getting ahead of the next problem.
Buyer beware too. I would say review your documents, read your purchase contract, get the last 3 minutes of the last 3 HOA meetings. Talk to the people if you can. Hire a home inspector. Get someone in there who is able to take a look at the whole house for what they can.
I want to cut in there on that. A normal home inspector, and we know some really good ones here in the area. We respect them. We value their input and we value their training. And I won't name names, but the average home inspector here in Lee County is not qualified to really give structural engineering advice. Wow. And so it's almost like a false sense of security that you would get when they come in and say, drywall looks good.
Well, you start somewhere. And if they see, for example, that, some water damage or mold or something is looking somewhere, they'll tell you further inspection from a licensed or qualified, this type of person. And, inspect to your heart's content because you've got a window. So make sure that it's built into your contract period.
I think this is something I want to do on Title Adam in the house. I think I want to almost make it a tradition and just throw a curveball at my guest and try to just get a reaction. I don't have video going today, so we're just on the audio. But Jade, how do you feel about radon?
Radon is a naturally occurring gas that may or may not be present in a structure. You're allowed to inspect during your inspection window, and I highly recommend that you do hire a home inspector and have that discussion with them on whether or not that might be a good idea.
You've been selling real estate for a while. How long have you been licensed?
Okay, since 2011, which is how many years?
14 this year.
Yeah.
And that spoken like a true pro. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable talking about it. But I think that the way that you just described it is perfect. And I remember having a house up in Indiana with a basement and a sump pump to keep the water out from the melting snow. And those are notorious for having increased levels of radon. I didn't really know much about that until I got down to Florida and I sold a condo in Estero and they did a radon test. And sure enough, it came back with radon and they mitigated it. They put a little box in the pantry. It cost, I think, probably $2,200 at the time. They then vented that box in the pantry and it made it to where the radon was acceptable. I'm glad that you said that. There are companies out there that will test the radon level. It's pretty easy. You know, I've heard people say that it's wasteful to even have it done. I've heard people say that, you know, you shouldn't do it because, you know, you save that money for something else. But the reality is if you get the peace of mind that, hey, you're not going to have a problem with radon because radon has been tied to the big C. All right. Now I'm going to do the next thing that I like to do is I'm going to see if I can prank Mario here because I want to talk to him about something he did.
This is Mario with Westcore. Sorry I missed your call. Please leave me a voicemail and I will call you back as soon as I can. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey, Mario, it's Title Adam in the house. I'm calling you from the studio. Thanks a lot for picking up when I needed you. Really appreciate that. Got a quick question for you, so give me a call back. 239-888-5757. By the way, Mario, if you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, if you're doing a deal in Florida, tag in Title Adam, okay? See ya. Well, that was me trying to reach Mario because I have a question for him. I wanted to try to put him on the grill here. You're hanging with Title Adam. I am here at the beautiful Premier Reputation Studios in Estero, Florida. I'd invite you to join me. Go to guest.titleadam.com, fill out the form, and I'll be in touch. We're getting the equipment set up. Really, this is the first couple runs of the podcast, and we're just finding a way to get our groove and to find the microphone levels and the equipment set up. We still have some more equipment that we haven't even gotten out of the box yet. But we wanted to just kind of snag some, get a feel for the levels, if you will. And so we're here on a Sunday working on this so that we can bring you quality content. I really want to talk about what's happening in Florida and specifically to Southwest Florida. We live here in the area, Lee, Collier, Charlotte, Glades, Hendry. What's my next one? Sarasota County too. We love them all. That's where we're primarily hanging out. But, you know, we can get really weird. We can get up to Hillsborough. We can get up to Hernando. We can get up to, you know, I believe there's 67 counties in Florida. So let me just tell you, Title Adam serves them all. If you're buying, selling, building, you know the rest. Until I put it on the button. I think, you know, another part that we talked about was not gatekeeping this experience. And like I said, I'm not here to make a podcast about making a podcast, but the truth is people love behind the scenes. And there's a lot of magic that happens behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of it, what I'm finding is you got to have good equipment. You got to use the equipment because when it's sitting in the box, it's not doing anything for anyone. And so what you do is turn the microphone on, start talking about something that you like. And then when you go back through, you just cut out the pieces that really make sense and that resonate with you. You brought up a concept on the way here, on the drive here. You said, Adam, I've been working on my life's algorithm. Sounds cute. And start talking about it a little bit though. You said, if something is in my life and it's not serving my algorithm or what I'm angling towards, what I'm building, then I'm swiping it. And I'm going to continue to do that until life, I don't like that. I don't want that. I don't need that in my life. And then you can say, I'm building now. I'm turning my focus because where your energy goes, I can't remember it. Say it.
It's where your attention goes, your energy flows. Yeah, that's a good one. And I think at the same time, like it's important not to be so in a bubble that you don't have concern for others or for what's going on around you. But at the same time, you should stay in your lane and focus on what makes you you and don't give a lot of attention or energy into things that could pull you down, whether or not that's like maybe turning off the news so you don't like get that kind of programming And then
And maybe understanding that you got to swipe or tell life more than once, I'm not interested in this content. I was having the conversation with Santos the other day that I felt like Instagram has just evolved into this, really, really risky content, not PG for real. And he had said, well, it's what you're looking at. And what it's serving you, what you like looking at. And I said, no, Santos, some of this stuff is not. And he said, well, do you go each time and click on it and say, I don't like this, or, don't show me this again? And the truth is that's not what happens. I just scroll past it. And I think that life might be the same way, where it says, well, you didn't tell me that you didn't want this in your life. You just participated in it, passively. And when you talked about kind of setting up your life's algorithm, it started my mind down a path of where I said, like, you need more active responsibility in letting life know you don't like something. And I think you can do that somehow without being a complainer or someone that people don't want to be around, but that you can just actively be a participant in your life and say, I really like that. Do more of it. I don't like that. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do it. I'm not going to.
yeah, and that can be for like whatever makes you happy. Just focus on your joy.
But then life can slip that scenario by you again, maybe in a couple days or a couple weeks or even months or years down the road. And it could just, just to see if maybe you've changed and maybe you do like that now and you do, but you may have to just swipe again that I don't like it. And so you've got basically the person on Instagram, for example, we'll pick on them, that has the feed and they look at it and they go, ugh. And then they just swipe to the next one and they swipe to the next one. And then what Santos was saying though was you should be clicking on the 3 dots and you should be telling Instagram, I don't like this. Don't put this in front of me. It's not enhancing my experience at all.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because in sales, the idea is to reach out all the time. And you get like those unsubscribes. And so you're just like, oh, darn, I must just not have fit into their algorithm right now.
And
And-
maybe I shouldn't get my feelings hurt when I get an unsubscribe. When someone says, yeah, I don't want to get this anymore.
Maybe they just don't want Google to start charging them $20 a year to keep their email open. And they're just tired of like everybody's drip and being caught on everybody's marketing campaign.
Managing an email inbox and spam is a job in itself. I'm actually someone that has a credit card number down with Google for storage of emails that I'll never need, but that I feel like I just don't want to let go of yet. And I keep threatening to get a hard drive that I can put everything on. But the last time I did that, I bought a hard drive, I put everything on it, and then I couldn't figure out how to get the stuff off of it. Now I still have it. It's just a brick. And so until I pay somebody to go on there and get it, and then I think when they go on there and get it, it may be stuff that I didn't really need anyways, because I've lived my life without it.
Yeah, it's funny how that works out sometimes. That's why, though, I do like the idea of the podcast and getting the message out and being relevant to what you're working with in real time, because you can upload it to the ether and then be able to look back on it. And I'd really taken a step back from social media, where I think during COVID, I was doing things like planting gardens on Animal Crossing or doing things that didn't really involve like actual being out and experiencing life as we'd known it before. And recently, when I started working in the garden in real time, it's like I then really just started using the social media as a search engine. And I might post something, but then I'll back away from that and don't really care about it. I do care, but to me, it's been a healthier relationship with social media to not always be under siege of the barrage, but to seek out only what I want to see and then using it for more of a search engine that makes my own agenda possible.
Way to put it. Really nicely put.
Thanks.
And daughter Rose is here with us as we're chatting, and she's been doing her best to provide some music. She
Yeah.
knows that Dad doesn't have music programmed yet into the Rodecaster Pro 2. It's a new piece of equipment, and I would say it's a substantial piece of equipment. That's what she said. And it's got faders, it's got buttons, it's got knobs on it, it's got everything that we need, and it's got a really nice touch screen as well. But I'm just trying to get the content, and then to go back through into Riverside is a program I've been using to edit it. So we're learning a lot about that. And I'm still looking forward to getting a video solution that's really going to work in a big way. More to come. If you've been thinking about doing a podcast, I think most people get stuck in the thinking part of it. Then I would like to invite you to join me on the podcast here, Title Adam in the House, and I'll show you all the equipment. I'll share with you how I set it up and how we're recording this, put you on yourself and give you some social media content that you can use. And then if you decide that you want to go through that yourself, then you will be well equipped to do so. But as a friend of mine and as a listener, you're always welcome to join the show. So visit guest.titleadam.com, fill out a short form, and we'll be in touch.
What I like about that is that I have no desire to really be in a podcast. Like, no offense, like I like it and it's cool. But what I like about it is that it gives you an opportunity to just sit down and have a chat with a friend. And that feels really nice. You don't have a large audience of 50 people around you. Maybe you're self-conscious, or maybe you don't feel comfortable standing up in front of a large group and speaking on any subject. But you're just sitting down at the closing table, which is comfortable, with a friend. You could have something to drink. You could have, a bowl of popcorn, and you just kind of pulled up a chair and you can have, like, I've got my seed catalog in front of me. It's just a chit chat about anything that you've got going on, any kind of questions, interview style prompts. It also gives a chance to just hear a voice, and you can talk about something that you're passionate about, or you're working on, or you're collaborating with. If you're working in the industry, it's a nice opportunity to just talk shop with a friend at the closing table and take advantage of Cheryl's York peppermint patties that are sitting here.
And she keeps them stocked too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yep.
really comfortable vibe in this office. I like that it's right off the side of the community park. And then Corkscrew is such a major artery of Estero. And you're right along the Bull Road.
Between 75 and 41 here on Corkscrew Road. And we'd love to see guests here in the office. And like I said, if you want to join me behind a microphone, go to guest.titleadam.com. And I would love to have the opportunity to chat with you. Like Jade said, this is a very chill chat. It's a chill chat. And I was hoping to actually get Mario on the line here. I'm going to be getting a hold of him, and I'll go ahead and roast him here I'll roast him here in the house. Mario, why didn't you tell me you have a ping pong table at your house? Jade told me that she heard from Mark the other night that you have a ping pong table that is easy to, not only do you have a ping pong table, but it was even taken to the level that you have a ping pong table that very easily unfolds, sets up, and is ready for the whiff waff. And I travel with paddles and a 6-pack of balls. So I'm ready at all times. I had no idea that you had a ping pong table. I feel like I needed to do a better job as a friend to you to let you know that I want to know that you have a ping pong table. And so I'll just put it out there to anybody I know. If you have a ping pong table and you want to play, call me, because I will come and play. And Jade is a heck of a player too. We have had some great matches ourselves, and I like to play. I love to play ping pong, and the reason I was calling Mario earlier today was to let him know that I need to know those things about him. I very much like to play. Am I great at it? I'm actually pretty good. My dad was good at ping pong as well. My neighbor, when I was 10, our neighbor got a ping pong table. My dad found out. My dad was always the kind of guy that went to work and came home, and he would turn it on while he was at work, and he would give his customers everything that they needed. But then he liked to come home and he liked to relax, and didn't really see him outside very much. He wasn't somebody that was hanging out at the neighbor's house or anything like that. Rich Hartwig got a ping pong table. My dad got word of it. And next thing you know, my dad's out there playing ping pong with Rich Hartwig until late at night. And they would get going and they would play in a way that was so competitive, like friends. But, my dad would go home talking about it. Like, I will get his ass next time. I will win that. Can you believe he slammed me on this and that? And my dad's dead now. He's not here to corroborate that. But I'm telling you, he was a heck of a ping pong player, and he was tall with long arms. So who does that remind you of? That's right. Love to play ping pong. See, now you got me talking about that, and I'm like, oh God, I love to play ping pong. I love to bowl. So if you want to get in the house with Title Adam, let's bowl. Let's roll. I got brand new bowling shoes for Father's Day. Haven't even worn them yet. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to do that. Now, I like to go to Headpens. Jade, let's talk about this while we're here in Southwest Florida, guys. Kids Bowl free. Jade, can you give just a quick snapshot of what that actually means as a mom of children? Go.
.com is a website where anybody can go to. If you've got children under the age of 16, you should check it out. But I've been using that service on that website for over a decade of just taking the kids to summertime bowling, and you get 2 free games per kid every day over the summer. Up until Fridays at 5, they turn it off for the weekend or so. So during the week, you've kind of got to be careful because there might be a giant summer camp coming in or a big group of kids from like a school or church or organization or something. So that can be tough. But this year, for example, we're really primed to go because you still have to rent the shoes. And this is just for the kids. So if you want the adults to bowl as well, you have to buy the family pack. You singing? You ready to go bowling? Rose is going to be eligible because you've got to be over age 2. And then anybody over age 2 can bowl. So this is going to be really convenient this time around in that we've got the family pass and Adam and I both own bowling shoes. So I think we'll skip on purchasing Rose bowling shoes for the moment because her feet are in rapid growth state. But for like $4 a day or a stint, that's right.
I think she's saying she wants to go bowling. Yeah,
ready
she
to
wants to do
go.
kids Bowl free.
Yeah, so we'll get one of those little rampy things that you can glide the ball down. We could put up bumpers on her turn. But I think it's important to get kids involved in sports. And bowling is a good one because rain or shine, you can bowl. Takes kids away from the screen. It is a sport. Even though like it doesn't feel like the sportiest of sports. Like Jim Gaffigan says, if you're out of shape and you're a bowler, you're probably
A pro bowler.
professional
Yeah.
bowler. Yeah. But
I like Jim Gaffigan.
yeah, he's good. That's
I saw
funny.
Jim Gaffigan live at Purdue, so in West Lafayette, Indiana. And I had, before that, had his DVD on one of his stand-up specials. I can't remember, Beyond the Pale, I think it was. And I would watch it. I would put it on while I was messing around the house or whatever. And kind of like this podcast, you might not be actually looking at me, but you're listening to me. And that's kind of how it was with Jim Gaffigan. And there's a familiarity with the way that he tells jokes and a way that he will phrase things. And just he's hilarious with the Hot Pocket. And
Well, what I like about it is that, like, I used to put on his specials at night when I was going to sleep. And it's really comforting because, like you said, you could get used to a voice. And that's why podcasting is cool or streaming is cool, because if you're in the car and you can't really look, you could still hear the comfort of voice. And that's what I like about lives. And that's what I like about podcasts. And Jim Gaffigan, he's got one of those voices that you could fall asleep listening to, and it's not going to change like that much in octave or volume. And then he's not really going to be saying anything particularly disturbing.
yeah, he's not one of these that's screaming, comic that's like screaming and yelling.
Or
But
cursing, or it's not like any kind of violent theme.
no, I went to go see him. I had pretty good seats, and he came out, and God, he came out and he immediately dropped with the Hot Pocket. Hot Pocket,
Oh, was it funny?
Everybody
Everyone
loved it.
roared?
Oh God, we all loved it. This is what we came for, and that was the
People
problem.
really know that was the thing.
That was the problem, was that he burned that material, and then we were just kind of like, well, that's
I didn't really know that joke.
half the people just wanted Hot Pocket, and then the other half of the people were like, we want new stuff. And I remember thinking that when I saw him live, it was almost a word for word copy of the DVD. Like it was, he ran it. It's a script. It's, he's got that down to a science. And it's really no different than when I say, if you're buying, selling, building, refinancing, or doing a deal in Florida, you got to tag in Title Adam. I'm local, I'm licensed, I'm here to help. He's the same way with the Hot Pocket. It's the same thing, guys. So I remember almost being not less of a fan, but I remember feeling like saw behind the veil there, that wasn't quite as spontaneous as we would like to think. He thought that through. Every pause, man, he's worked on.
Well, that's what's cool about podcasting, is that it's off the cuff in the sense that you might have like a spark of genius in a moment, and otherwise it might just be a very boring, drawn out hours of nonsense. So you've got to
Sure.
rein it in. through editing.
Tracking the potential for tropical development near Florida next week, the National Hurricane Center outlook shows a low-end chance for tropical development near the Florida Peninsula late next week. Jason Dunning, meteorologist at NBC2, GulfCoastNewsNow.com, says the National Hurricane Center's latest tropical outlook highlights a large portion of the Florida Peninsula to watch for tropical development late next week into the 4th of July weekend. As of Sunday morning, development odds are low through the next 7 days, 20%, but this will at least be an area to keep an eye on into the next week. By the middle of next week, we'll track a stalled front over central Florida, which could allow an area of low pressure to form near the waters of the eastern Gulf or western Atlantic. It's very unlikely this would form into a strong system, and regardless of any potential tropical development, the main impact would be rain. Since there are still many variables that will determine how next week's weather pattern will set up, it's too early to know how much rain we'd see from this disturbance over southwest Florida. The latest forecast models show the potential for 2 to 4 inches of rain through the next week. Wow. But that's just about like any 4th of July weekend I've ever been through myself, where we've said, it's going to rain in the morning and maybe in the afternoon. It could stop just long enough to shoot off some fireworks and go from there. So we'll see more to come on that. We're broadcasting right now from the Premier Reputation Studios in Estero, Florida, 33928. It's 89 degrees outside, feels like 95 and sunny. And that's Southwest Florida in the summertime. That's what it's like right now. Tropical storm Barry forms in the southwestern Gulf. Landfall expected tonight.
Where is it going to hit?
Tropical storm Barry formed Sunday morning in the far southwestern Gulf over the Bay of Campeche. As of the 11 a.m. Sunday morning update, Tropical storm Barry is moving northwest at 6 miles per hour with maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour. Barry's life as a tropical storm will be short-lived. The storm is forecast to hug the east central coast of Mexico Sunday before making landfall there tonight into early Monday morning. The main impacts will be flooding, rain, and potential for mudslides in higher elevations. Tropical storm Barry will have no impact on the U.S. mainland. So there was a waste of my time and voice, but we'll include it on the podcast so that you know what it's like to be doing this. Thanks for hanging with us here. Title Adam in the house. Okay, here's another one, though, and this is a hot story right now, so we might as well put it on with Title Adam in the house. This is from Gulf Coast News Now. Kendall Brandt, Choppy, Florida. Have you heard about this, Jake? Crowds of hundreds lined U.S. Route 41 near the Miami-Dade and Collier County line to protest the work in progress to build a migrant detention facility in the Everglades. It's been dubbed by state leaders as Alligator Alcatraz. Many protesters said they came out to show their love for the land. I've camped in the Everglades. I've paddled Turner River, said protester Zafira Nomikos. Just the Everglades to me are sacred. For Carolyn Billy, it's home. It's about the Everglades, our homeland, Billy said. Whatever's going on in there is disrupting the whole ecosystem. That's why she and her Miccosukee and Seminole tribe members said no to the facility being built right in their backyard. This is our neighbor, Billy said. They say, love thy neighbor, but no, we can't love this one. State leaders said that the facility will house up to 5,000 undocumented immigrants. The indigenous groups are protesting the development of land they consider sacred. Others traveled to the Everglades from across the Gulf Coast to view their opposition to the detention facility already being built. Some said they are not only against the location of the facility, but its entire existence. From a humanitarian standpoint, it's just evil, Nomiko said.
To me, it's pretty gross because why are you picking on, people who are, picking the crops and then putting them in the Everglades? It's like, wouldn't you just deport people? I don't know why you would harbor them in a prison in the Everglades. It seems kind of gross.
Work trucks were moving in and out of the field all day Saturday ahead of the facility planned to open in early July. Even after the Friends of the Everglades, the Center for Biological Diversity and Eco-Justice filed a lawsuit against the state for endangering the natural habitat.
It's like, haven't the Everglades been pillaged enough? Why are we now putting a jail there?
Gulf Coast News reached out to state leaders in the offices of the governor and attorney general, but have yet to hear back. Florida GOP chairman Evan Powers said adding the facility to the already open airstrip is necessary. Quote, we're utilizing something that's already in place and utilizing it to help the Floridians that are trying to get people out of our country as quickly as possible, Powers said.
I don't know. It reminds me too of historically when prisoners have been marooned to a desolate island area, like when the prisoner, wasn't it the French prisoners were offered to restart their lives in Louisiana with a prostitute, and they were prisoners and then they were banished to this desolate area, swamp. Feels like that. Feels like that's going on. Same thing with like Australia, where it's some kind of colonization going on. I agree that there's a problem, but I don't know that that's the answer. I don't know. Guess I'm not really well versed enough to speak on it.
Well, it's certainly a controversial
I can see
item.
why. It's like upsetting news.
Oh, and the quote that I saw that was in the article was talking a little bit about that her family has been fighting for their home for years and they won't stop now. We've been here. Our people have been here for hundreds of years, Billy said. We don't know anything else but to protect our land. That's it. And despite these protests, Governor Ron DeSantis has said the facility could house migrants very soon.
Yeah, I bet.
What is that about? Is that about money?
Yeah, it's definitely a money thing. Disappointing,
Unfortunate.
but it is a problem.
Florida Department of Transportation released a survey for urban trail plan. Fort Myers, Florida. The Florida Department of Transportation released a survey for Fort Myers and North Fort Myers residents. The survey will help the Lee County Metropolitan Planning Organization plan a new 8-foot wide shared use path for the Caloosahatchee Bridge sidewalk. To the northwest side, the trail will connect to the Sun Trail network along the Littleton Road, which then becomes Kismet Parkway and Cape Coral. To the southeast, the trail will connect with the John Yarbrough Linear Park Trail, which is currently being extended to Henson Street. Once the path is completed, it will be a part of the Sun Trail network. Pretty cool.
It's amazing because that's a lot of money in that infrastructure.
I think we need that kind of stuff. We need to get people out walking around.
Yeah, and this time of year it's harder to. And also with like the roaring traffic everywhere, it's hard to. Because I don't feel comfortable walking along Lee Boulevard even though there are sidewalks. It's just not real nice when you're walking next to cars that are whizzing down at like 50
55
miles an
and
hour.
on a good day if they're not speeding.
45 is the speed limit on Lee Boulevard.
No one is going 45 on Lee
I do.
Boulevard.
I do.
Not when I'm driving you.
Yeah.
Try to get another piece with you, but what would that piece be? Peace be with you. And peace be with you.
And also with you. Right.
A lot of open houses today in Southwest Florida. Talked with some agents that were going to be holding open today, and they were hoping that the weather would be on their side. I'm looking outside, and I see all blue skies. It's now almost 2 o'clock. Looks
Ow.
fantastic out.
Alexa said we wouldn't get rain until this afternoon. And I think there was over 1,000, what did we say earlier? Open houses in Southwest Florida. Yeah. So I'd like to go to some open houses again. I like them. I think it's nice to step inside and see what the units are looking like.
You find that when you go in, everybody is different, but do you find that when you go in, are you going in as a competitor? Are you going in as someone who's looking to kind of not dog, but to, judge what the other agent's doing? Or are you really going in just to see the inventory and maybe pick up an idea, eat the fish and spit
Well,
out the bones kind of thing?
It's going to depend on why I'm going in there. Because if I've got a shopper who is looking at that type of home, then I might pop into him just to see that type of home. Or if you're out showing properties with your buyer and you know that there's also going to be an open house at that window, you might pop into the open house while you're there. If I'm going with you, that's going to be a different vibe. Or if I'm holding it my own, that might be something else. So generally, I'm going to have a reason to go, but I like popping into them because it's like a preview and you're going to do better at your own job when you can see just the inventory that's out there and what you can get for your money on today's market.
When you say that you want to go to open houses, which is different than previewing, because you're a real estate agent, you have access to all these properties through Lockbox, and you could go and take a look at them at any time. Let me ask, the reason that you say that you want to go to the open house, is that because of the interaction that you have with the listing agent to be able to kind of get some of that scoop of what's going on, or is it just looking at the property?
The way I said that was because I thought of how I could go to some open houses with you. And I think that that's a nice outreach because for you, when you go to an open house as the title agent, you're going to be seeking connection with the realtor who's there. But for me, I'm going to be going there with you to support you in that role, but also check out the house and stuff like that. So I'd like to go with you to an open house because I think that's fun and see what's out there. I like seeing what listings are like in different zones. Like if you've got a reason to pop in. Like if we've got a friend who's a realtor and they're holding a property open, it's a real nice solid to pop in there and see them. And then I have a good time doing it. For example, we were looking at the Sweet Home Florida Group's property on Catalpa Cove. And then we left there and we went to my broker's house, which was just like a block over, and had a nice time there. So that was like a nice night, because going around town in South Florida, especially at certain times of the year, there may or may not be a lot going on. Like when they do Island Hop, it's like they do it that time because there's not a whole lot to do in town at that time. But during the winter, there's plenty to do anytime that you want to go out. There's always something happening. But I like open housing because you usually can remember what they did, where they made like a turkey out of fruit skewers. It's cute. It's fun. So I like open houses. They're fun.
I like broker opens. I like to
Yeah.
go to the broker opens because I like to hang out with them and see what they're doing, see how they want to market their property and what they actually think would be smart, effective, And then I like to pick their brain and say, well, what's working? Is that working? Are you?
I don't notice a lot of broker opens. And you bring up a good point with that because, for example, if I'm listing a property in a subdivision where an agent is holding something open, and if it's a broker open, maybe I would go to that open house as a networking opportunity, being that I'm selling something right around the corner and I want to mingle with people who are doing the same thing. When I take a listing, the first thing I'm going to do is look to see like who's listed what around. And then if I know that agent, I might just send him a text and go, hey, how's it going over there? Have you had any action? Or if something's pending, you could even go like, did you get past the appraisal, or how's the file moving along?
Kind of asking those questions is kind of get a little bit of information. Some are more forthcoming than others. Some just like somebody with a proud puppy, proud kid with a puppy just wanting to tell you all about their deal and then it went through appraisal. And then other people are very tight-lipped and say, well, you can find it in the public records afterward.
Well, and you're going to have a lot better time knowing that information if you popped in and supported somebody at their open house. And
Yeah,
it
nah.
does make a difference. Like when we held open the condo and the lender rolled in right away,
Uh-huh.
it was nice to me that right out the gate we had a guest. And her name is Maria Saldivar. And she's a notary.